from your knowledge of these coaches, what do you think would be the best option for the Rockets? Changing necessarily players or making a coaching change, and why?
First and foremost, they got to change the coach. I don't ever see him being someone who holds that Larry O'Brien trophy as a head coach. He's not building good habits, not for his superstar players and not for the other guys on the team.
A lot of people criticize Rockets offense, and to me, for me it comes down mostly, can they defend? And I think one of the biggest losses was you remember his last name is Jeff, but I forgot how to pronounce his last name.
Bizdelic? Yeah,
Bizdelic. If you were going to choose, like, for a coaching change, are you choosing Van Gundy that would help them most, or Thibodeau?
To me, I don't see much that Thibodeau does different for them. To me, I don't see him winning a championship with a team either. If we're going to pick, I just don't see it. For me, I feel like Van Gundy is that guy. He's not someone who'll be opposed to change and adjustment and all that kind of stuff.
I'd probably go with Tom Thibodeau. He will ask for a lot more from a defensive standpoint. You know, the past 8 seasons for James Harden and the past 9 seasons for Russell Westbrook, they've both been like pretty much top 10 in usage rate.
Because at this given point, they need somebody who's going to get them, because they're already a playoff team, from a playoff team to a championship
team. Welcome to Leave It on the Court. My name is Corey Randall.
My name is Mustafa.
And for today's segment, we'll be discussing if there should be any coaching changes with the Houston Rockets. There have been rumors about Rockets being interested in having Tom Thibodeau and Jeff Van Gundy as coaching options for next season. Currently, they're coached, obviously, as we know, by MikeD'Antoni. So, Mustafa, from your knowledge of these coaches, what do you think would be the best option for the Rockets? Changing necessarily players or making a coaching change, and why?
First and foremost, they got to change the coach, in my estimation.
I knew you going to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said this. MikeD'Antoni is a good coach to a point. He's not. I don't ever see him being someone who holds that Larry O'Brien trophy as a head coach. Maybe as an assistant, but as a head coach, probably not. His philosophy is way too elementary for me. He doesn't make the proper adjustments. In some way, he kind of wears out James Harden, no matter like who's he's playing alongside with. And for me, he doesn't build good habits among players holistically. A lot of times, if you look at how they play, it's almost like you're in a park watching the team play, watching guys play, 5-on-5 game, or it's a pickup game out there. It doesn't feel like real respected NBA basketball. Granted, he's always had good talent, and he's good with like good talent, obviously, but I don't see him going further with them to a championship. People say, "Oh, what if Chris Paul would have played Game 7, they would have won?" Or, all right, there's a lot of hypotheticals. They could have, let's say they did win the game against Golden State Warriors. They still had somebody else to face. What if they got swept? What if they lost? Like, there's so many hypotheticals that you can go ahead and say. But for me, it's just like holistically, he's not building good habits, not for his superstar players and not for the other guys on the team. And for me, it's just like we always spoke and said, championship, it requires a lot out of a team. It's not a walk in the park. So I don't know how you feel about that, but that's just my take on it.
Man, well, as you know, I'm probably the biggest Rockets fan as they come. I've seen I've been watching Mike D'Antoni coach Rockets now these past few seasons, and I think a lot of people criticize Rockets offense, and to me, for me it comes down mostly, can they defend? I think year after year, Rockets are always, people talk about how they shoot too many threes and do this and that, whatever. They always have like scoring one of the most amount of points versus every other team in the league. And I think one of the biggest losses was, you remember his last name is Jeff, but I forgot how to pronounce his last name.
Bizdelic.
Yeah, Bizdelic.
Yeah.
Like he was great for Rockets for defense, because when he was there, Rockets would be like top 10 in defense. Then when we lose him, our defense has been pretty abysmal and pretty inconsistent all season this year. So the only reason why I could consider making a change is because on that end, I don't see anything fixing. So I think it's funny because Tom Thibodeau has, a reputation of running players through the ground and all that stuff. But ever since, the past 8 seasons for James Harden and the past 9 seasons for Russell Westbrook, they've both been like pretty much top 10 in usage rate. So they're used to playing a lot of minutes and having a lot of things run through them. So I don't think that would be unfamiliar territory for them or Tom Thibodeau. But I think he will ask for a lot more from a defensive standpoint. So I think that may help. So I'd probably go with Tom Thibodeau just to demand more on the defensive end. I think they should also, with making a decision, they should kind of see how the season plays out, because this season has been very different. They made a big change and getting rid of Clint Capela and getting Robert Covington, and it's kind of a different team playing the small ball. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see what it goes from there. But if you were going to choose, like, for a coaching change, are you choosing Van Gundy that would help them most, or Thibodeau?
For me, I don't see much that Thibodeau does different for them, honestly. Even with it would be a huge upgrade to what he's, I would say, accustomed to as far as talent, because he would have the defensive players. He has PJ Tucker. He's got what's that guy's name that came from Minnesota?
Covington.
He's got some players there that can help on the defensive end. Then again, they've lost some guys like Ariza and Luke Baum. Those are big pieces that they lost from that team that went to the Western Conference Finals with Golden State that year. To me, I don't see him winning a championship with a team either. If we're gonna pick, I just don't see it. Like, I don't see what he does special with a team that can get a player from point A to point B. What made Phil Jackson a great coach, or known as one of the renowned coaches to ever, do it, is because he took a really good player that probably didn't have all the best habits to win, and instill good habits in him for him to win. Changed his whole mindset. And that's the thing I talk about with coaches. It's no more teachers anymore. It's just player pets. Like, all right, we're just gonna have this guy do this, and that's why it's very, very few really good teams in the league. And people are stockpiling talent, but it's like you look at them, they just keep stockpiling, but it doesn't equate to more wins or a really, really like a severe amount of change on their team. For me, I feel like Van Gundy is that guy who can teach, who can be a good coach. He's just good in so many areas, and he's somebody who really is a student of the game. Even at his age, it seemed like he's still learning, especially like the new age. He's not someone who'll be opposed to change and adjustment and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So for me, he's my pick, and that's what I'm looking for in a coach. Someone who could teach. I don't want somebody who just got charisma, or who just got defense, or who just know how to play players 45 minutes a game. Like, I need somebody who's a tactician, also a teacher, someone who can hold players accountable. Just get the whole shebang.
You said 45 minutes a game. Nah, but
You know, like I don't want to discredit him. You know, he's a good defensive mind. I feel like at one point he was a really good coach. But for me, it's just like you got to dig deeper, man. Like we're talking change with a team that already has 2 superstars. So that's something as a GM, as a president, I'm not going to take very lightly. I want somebody who's a rebel a little bit, who can shake some things up, who's not afraid to hold, you know, a superstar accountable, particularly James Harden, who seems very opposed to being told to do things differently. He sees it his way. He wants to do it his way. So that's going to be a very interesting thing. And I think that might have been the reason why the Houston Rockets was looking and hoping to keep D'Antoni in that position for the time being, because that was really James Harden's best shot, or their best shot at cultivating or keeping that relationship with James Harden. But, you know, you got to do what's best for the team, man. If you want to win and you want to hold that Larry O'Brien trophy, you bring, you know, somebody who can do it. You know, people say Tom Thibodeau. I'm not knocking him. If he could get his money, get a coaching position, why not? But to me, he did like I want to see a coach, you know, who's going to stay there, who's going to be there for a long term, not somebody, you know, they get him and then later on it's like, oh, we got to get rid of him. He's just not a good fit here, or he's not fitting. He doesn't fit with certain players. Blase, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know how you feel about that.
And it's funny because, you know, Jeff Van Gundy coached the Rockets from 03 to 07. And he actually hired one of his Thibodeau as one of his assistants. And he actually hired Tom Thibodeau for like saying that he had an offensive like a creative, like offensive mindset, and gave him credit for kind of improving Yao Ming's game. But I don't know if you know, he's always preaching, you know, defense and playing hard. So I don't know how much of his offensive knowledge would help with Houston. But I think it's kind of like when you look at the Rockets, how they are now, they kind of remind me of when Coach Collins was coaching the Bulls before Phil Jackson. Collins. Yeah, Doug Collins. He's coaching the Bulls before Phil Jackson. Like, and even when you saw in The Last Dance, it was like, you know, that was when MJ was averaging 30, damn near, you know, 40, and he was a nice show to see. But it was like they kept losing though. Yeah. Because with Phil Jackson coming in and having Tex Winter as well there to implement the triangle offense, that's where it created more ball movement for other guys to not just be stagnant and kind of get other guys to get more involved. And it made Michael Jordan more not that he was selfish anyway, but it made him more of a willing passer to not just want to do everything on his own. So it helped him out. So I think maybe that should definitely help with Houston by making that change. But I agree with you on the Van Gundy standpoint, just because, you know, Tom Thibodeau is he's very strict and like hard nosed, and he wants stuff his way, and that may create a whole issue if he and James Harden and Westbrook just aren't on the same page, and it's just going to be a whole just discombobulated team.
And to comment on what you said, that whole triangle thing was very new at that time. Nobody in the NBA knew about that. Nobody was implementing it. It was a completely new scheme to take the ball out of Michael Jordan's hand and to just make a whole holistic approach to a team. And, you know, with D'Antoni right now, you're not getting that. And it's just, you know, even Kobe said this before he passed, you know, like what James Harden is doing right now can get them above water. But long term, you know, as far as getting into the playoffs and winning, you know, that trophy, I don't think is going to do it for you, because teams just going to know how to guard it better. They're going to know how to guard you better. They just key in, zone in on you and zone in on your team. And on top of that, now that, you know, they're playing small ball, it's a major disadvantage for them with certain matchups. They may match up good with some teams, may not match up with some other teams.
Right.
So, you know, like, there's a lot in the equation here. The head coaching job is something I think they should take a very good look at, man. I would even, if I'm them, I'm not even going to try to go after no huge big name, but go after somebody who you really feel has some kind of philosophy, believes in that philosophy, and knows that it can work, and who's not afraid to make change that is against what the normal NBA does. You know, you gotta listen. The really good teams are trendsetters. When you look back at all the teams that won, they're trendsetters, some way, some fashion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe you could say Cleveland was maybe the only team you say, all right, you know, even Miami Heat, the time that they won with LeBron and them. They started that they started with having Chris Bosh, the four, you know, spacing the floor, pace and space, and that kind of offense.
Yeah.
You know, granted, people started trying to implement it on their team, but not everybody can implement that because you got to have more than one person who can handle the ball, who can really do a lot of things outside of just scoring.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and the other thing too is whatever coach you get. Are they gonna be a coach that's on board with the small ball? Like, I have mixed feelings about the small ball. There are some cons to it, you know, certain matchups, certain things when it comes to like rebounding and having a guy who's a shot blocker, things of that nature. But when you look at the Rockets team, Clint Capela wasn't that great of a rim protector anyway. And with them being small, you know, their Rockets are top 5 in like forcing turnovers because they can switch everything. And then, you know, on offense, a lot of times it can take another team's big players out of the game because like when Utah played against Houston, they would try to put Gobert on Russell Westbrook, and they played the Lakers, they put AD on Westbrook, and it's like that's just a mismatch because these guys can't stick with somebody like that. But they're going to have to figure out that philosophy as well. Maybe go after a big man who's cheaper than Capela. Go after a big man in free agency who is athletic and agile enough to move his feet, not be slow, maybe space the floor. But
listen,
I don't know.
From what I've seen from Daryl Morey, he's been somebody who's been able to always try to adapt to the coach's playing style. So the first step is to get the coach in the building and, you know, get a coach that see what he wants to do, what his philosophy is, and how he wants to play. And does he believe it? Does he believe this is something that can take them from point A to point B? Because at this given point, they need somebody who's going to get them, because they're already a playoff team, from a playoff team to a championship team. Yeah. So that's a very unique situation. So that's why that's one of the reasons why, you know, they don't want to go ahead and make that, because it's hard to find that pick because you got to have someone who got to definitely deal with egos.
Yeah.
If you can't, man, that could cost you. It's gonna definitely cost you a chip. I'm telling you that now. Mm-hmm. If OKC had a different coach, they won probably 2 titles already. You know, but you know that's neither here nor there. So
yeah, definitely, man.
I thank you guys for tuning in on this lovely Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Yeah. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Definitely will appreciate your support and for you tuning into our episodes.
As well, please follow us on the Anchor app and on Spotify as well, because we have the podcast just for audio listed on there for you to hear as well. Definitely check that out. Yep.
All right. Deuces, guys.
Deuces.
Let's catch you on the next one.